the yellow card bases. This kit came with 5 different sheets of cardstock. There's yellow, pink, white, black and grey. And all I did with all of these was split them lengthways to make top folding cards. And yeah, as I say, I selected the yellow. Now here you'll see this is the bicycle die that came in with the kit, and I actually wanted to have the bicycle facing the other way to that which it's supposed to be directed. I wanted the bicycle to look like it was riding off the side of the card. So instead of die cutting it from the front, I laid the die on the back side of the patterned paper, so to flip it, as it were. And here you're just seeing me run some double-sided tape around the outside edge, because it's actually the negative space that I want of the bicycle die. And then for the smaller, more intricate parts, I've got my Nuvo fine tip glue pen, and I'm just running around the edges because I don't like it when you try and put a card in an envelope and it catches. I just think it's irritating. When you've spent that much time and that much effort making a nice card, you want it to, you know, do as it says on the tin and be a nice card. So yeah, I've just popped a bit of glue on there and the double-sided tape to reinforce the acetate on. And here you'll see I've just laid that little bicycle back into the negative space, and I've just put in some multimedia matte onto actually a bit of waste cardstock there, and I'm just paper piecing back into place the negative spaces apart from the wheels, because I want the wheels to remain negative, as it were, so that there is the space to see what is going to be going behind. So as you may well have guessed, this is me putting together a shaker card, and all I have here is my double-sided foam tape. I've folded it back on itself. I'm not sure who I saw this from originally. It's a bit of a trick, but it's perhaps Christina Warner or Jennifer Maguire, maybe Amy R. I'm not sure. But folding it on the roll is so much easier than trying to put a layer down and then put another layer down without having overhang. Because when you have the bit of overhang, you've always got the risk that the sequins are going to wedge in there. I mean, they even still do on occasion with this method, but you're reducing the risk greatly. As you can see, I'm running through with my anti-static powder tool. That powder will take away all the sticky that is exposed, so it helps out. So I've created a gully, and then I laid my sequins down on the card front, put more foam tape around the back of the pattern paper, and then just laid that carefully on top. So that's now stuck down. So here I'm getting the sentiment together, and I decided to go with hello, and I've stamped that in VersaFine, and then use some Nuvo clear embossing powder over the top just to give it a nice shine. And then using my paper trimmer there, I've just trimmed it out to make a smaller panel, and then I've cut a very thin strip of the charcoal grey pearlescent cardstock. And I wanted to put a fishtail on this, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, as it was quite broad and I wanted to put something unusual underneath. So I moved the centre of the fishtail up a little bit so that it was in line with the O on hello, and I stuck that little strip down and then put some sequins on the strip and around as if they were coming out of this bicycle that was riding off into the sunset. Here's card 2. So this one, again, I've just taken one of the patterned pieces and I've got a black card base. Now, this is ever such a simple card, and I love a window card. If you've been watching my videos, you'll see that I often try to make the actual bases a little bit different. That's what I enjoy doing with a card, to make it unusual. But here I've just cut a strip off of the edge. It's all done by eye, I'm afraid. I don't tend to measure things very often. If people are really keen for it, pop a comment below and I will try to comment the sizes. Here are the peel-offs. Now this is obviously the second already set of peel-offs that have been manufactured by me. Last month I put in the metallic blue into the celebration card kit. And obviously you've seen the sequins as well in the last card. How did I not even mention that? That's the first Love From Lizi custom mix. I did have one called Moonstone that sold out quite some time ago, so this is very exciting. But anyway, back to the card. My apologies. I used a die to cut a rectangle from the front panel, and then I trimmed down one of the little tag stickers that came in the kit and laid it using my scissors into the gap. And here I'm running some peel-offs along the edges, and what you're about to see is a real good trick when it comes to the border peel-offs. and that is you make the edges overlap and then you push your blade into them and it miters the corners, and it looks so professional. And then I popped a couple of the black gems onto the tag, cut a couple of tiny little snips at the top so that the twine has something to sit in, and tied a small bow, and that is card number 2 all sewn up. Here's card number 3. So this one I wanted to do something a bit different, and I have heeded all of your advice when it comes to sticking down vellum. You will all be very pleased to hear. However, this piece of white cardstock, I must say, is from my own stash. I've pulled it in and I just cut lots of little strips, run some double-sided sticky tape along the back, and then using the lines on the grid mat, I space them out. Now, I'm not great when it comes to measuring and numbers. I like doing things by eye, and I know some people really don't enjoy it. So this, I stuck 2 down at either end, then 1 in the middle, and then I laid the other 2 down in what looked like the middle spaces from there. I hope that makes sense. But I made sure that the card was at right angles to my grid. Here I'm stamping my vellum and heat setting it. Now this is the first time I've ever used this. I did not read the instructions. I had no idea what I was doing, so I really did speed this process up. However, it's fantastic. And I burnished it down as I've seen everyone doing it. And then just stuck it down straight onto my card base, and I was really chuffed. So thank you everyone who made the suggestions. I ran some Nuvo glue over the centre of the flowers and then used the black glitter just for a little bit of extra interest. So, up and on to card 4, I'm using my stamp set, the second Love From Lizi exclusive stamp set. You're not going to hear the end of me saying exclusive, I'm afraid. I'm really sorry, it's so exciting. However, I stamped the basket and then I stamped the handle. I did use my Misty to make sure it was all lined up well. You don't need to at all, it's just, it does make things a little bit easier because you can see through and you can line it all up. And the best thing with that handle is actually getting your face down and looking where the stamp is, in my estimation. Anyway, fussy cut out some flowers that I stamped onto the patterned pink paper, and then I trimmed down the basket. Now, this piece of cardstock I used because it had like a little nick, a little fold in it, I think you can probably see. So I was like, oh, I'll pop that one in my kit to make with. I wanted to be able to use that side up, so this was like the perfect size. Pop some double-sided sticky tape on the back of the little tile, and then stuck that directly onto the pearlescent card there, and it was ever so small. So here are my little flowers that I fussy cut out, and then I use some of the itty bitty gems as the centres of the flowers. This card is so simple, and I think it may actually be my favourite. That's one of the little background builder stamps, and then I popped some wet glue onto the back of one of the blooms, and then on the other I just popped some little foam squares and then boosted it up, and then I used my tonic shimmer pen to go over the leaves. Because it's ever such a simple card, it was really nice to bring that focus in. Popped some double-sided foam tape on the back of my little picture tile, and then using the lines on my grid mat, because when a card is this simple, you have to have your lines straight because it jumps out like a sore thumb. And there's that card, and yeah, I think that might be one of my favourites. I did sneak peek that in the Love From Lizi Facebook group as well. So excuse my head, here's card 5, and I'm really getting some mileage out of this Xyron machine. I'm still not great with it, but I think it's terrific. So yeah, so I'm stickying up another of the vellum sheets and popping it onto some scrap cardstock from my stash, and then trimming that down with the trimmer just to make sure all the edges are lovely. Again, this is a very simple card, easy to recreate with any sorts of papers. This kit has actually sold out, you see, but many of these cards you would be able to regurgitate with other stuff. So I hope you're inspired by some of the cards that you see, or if it helps you out of a slump, because I know that's what I do sometimes when I think, oh, I don't know what I am actually going to make with all of this, and all of these products. I watch YouTube videos and something drops, something clicks. So here I've cut down a piece of the gold glitter. Now I'm a little bit mean when it comes to my specialty cardstock. You absolutely do not need to be. However, I knew that that middle piece was going to be hidden. So this is for people that are careful with their product or that don't want to spend lots and lots of sheets. This is a way around it. So I've cut the glitter and then I've measured another piece of patterned paper. Now I've turned the glitter over and with a pencil I've drawn around the outside edge because that is ultimately the only bit that's going to be shown. So now I've got my craft knife and I'm running along the inside of that pencil line just to cut out that centre piece so that I can stick the frame down and then pop the pattern paper on top, and then I've got my glitter for bordering the smaller tile in the middle. And of course I didn't cut it particularly straight because that would have been useful. So I'm now using the trimmer again just to get all my lines and my corners perfect because I want an even narrower border for that small piece at the front because there's obviously the vellum has the foil on it as opposed to the backing paper. So here I pop some double-sided sticky tape onto the back of that vellum panel that was mounted onto the white cardstock. And then I centre that onto using the tweezers because my fingers are always in the way, it feels. I don't know if that's just me or... And here's the tonic glue stick, which is incredible. When it first came out, because Carson got it all over a load of my cardstock, I looked at it and I thought, that's ruined. It's absolutely ruined. I can't do anything with that now. And then it dried clear. So it's not ruined in the least. It does leave a slight shine, so it's not like something that you actively shouldn't care with, but it does dry clear. And at least you know it's dry as well then. So anyway, digressing again, I've popped some double-sided tape on the back of that vellumed and glittered piece in the middle, and that is, the basis of the card. It's a very shiny, great for a magpie. And here, the sentiment, I just went again with the VersaFine and stamped hello. Now, I didn't do this here. I left that, and then the following morning, when I moved it on my desk, I had hello on my thumb. So I then heat set it. On the vellum, the VersaFine does not dry, so do heat set it with an embossing powder, if you can. Okay, next card. Sorry, blithering on again. I'm getting some of the grey pearlescent cardstock, popping that onto a black card base, and here I'm using it's like medallions, and it also almost looks like one of these sort of colour me the therapy books, which one of my lovely subscribers sent me some colouring pencils and a book, and that's Jude. She's lovely, really lovely lady. I must say I've met so many kind people through doing this. It's heartwarming. Anyway, sorry. Chameleon pen, which came in the kit. Instead of just colouring the bike in, which was what I suggested in my unboxing video, I thought I'd try something a little bit different to give you some more inspiration. So I've put With Love onto my block, Versamark inked it up, and I've just created it almost looks like a tube, I think, where it's shiny at the front and then darker at the edges. And then here, if I could go back in time, I would change this, but I don't plan my cards. I do everything by the seat of my pants. So I did this in white. Now, I should have done it in black because the white did not stand out at all, I'm afraid to say. And I will go back to this card perhaps and replace the banner. Do exactly the same and just heat emboss a black sentiment. And then I use my trimmer just to trim the edges all off so that all you've got is the With Love and the greyness. And then double-sided tape on the back of the patterned paper. And originally I was thinking about saying that this card could be used as one that you would send to like a child so that they can colour it in themselves, sort of like an interactive birthday card perhaps. But it ended up going in a way that I think would actually work for a masculine card. So, I mean, perhaps you don't think so, but I think I could get away with this one going to a guy. Foam mounted the panel up onto the front of the card, and then I covered the whole front of the sentiment strip in double-sided sellotape. This is just another technique. I folded all the edges in. You can cut it, of course, but you do run the risk then of the edges trying to come away, or when you fold it in, it does make it a little bit bulkier. However, you do get nicer edges, I feel. It's a personal preference thing though. Okay, so taking off the release paper and then pouring this glitter over the top. and I did give it a real good burnishing to make sure that it wasn't going to put glitter everywhere. Double-sided tape on the back, and then mounted it up onto this spotty. Oh, here's me burnishing again, just to make sure. And then I mounted that up onto some spotty patterns paper that was left over from my first card. And then using some foam squares, mounted that up on the front in the centre. And now here I decided to use the chameleon pen in the conventional method because some of these little medallions look like flowers. So I made it really light for one aspect and let it gradually get darker around the other aspect. And I did that on 3 of the blooms. And unfortunately my camera stopped working, but I did go in and add some of the little gold gems in some of the centres. You'll see that on the still shots at the end. Here's card 7, and this is using that big medallion page. And often I shy away from using the full page images when I get patterned paper, so I've challenged myself not to. And here's a circle cutter. Now this circle cutter is designed for a right-handed person, so it's a nifty tool, but I had to go back in with my scissors to tidy it all up because it just doesn't swing as nicely for a lefty. So anyway, so I've cut around the edge with a nice arch, and then using my Fiskars precision knife, I cut along medallion. Now you could definitely do this with a pair of scissors, but I don't enjoy fussy cutting. I'd rather use a knife. And then back in with my Nuvo fine tip glue pen, I'm just accenting little bits and pieces of both the inner and the outer part, so sort of the flower and then the scalloping around the edge. And then I cover both of those pieces in the black glitter that came in the kit. And then because I put a hole in the middle using the circle tool at the beginning, I was able to mark a pencil through, and then I run some sort of rays or stripes of double-sided tape out, and I popped some black glitter directly onto the card base, checking first off if it had it the right way up, because I do that quite regularly. And then using the side of the mat, I lined up the flower part of the medallion, and then using the glue stick from the kit, I just glued that into place. So the flower is mounted up on 3D foam tape, so it sits proud, which is nice. And then I'm using the Nuvo drops again just to go in and accent some extra little bits and pieces from within the medallion. And then I had to pick a sentiment, and I just went with a very simple hello. I'm a big fan of having just nice, simple, generic sentiments, because then that way I can always add to it. Oh, here, now this is an example of another way to use peel-offs. They are pliable when they're nice and thin, so they can go around corners. You can warp them, so I used a black peel-off, which was obviously from my stash. It didn't come in this kit. And I ran it around the edge of the medallion, and then I stamped hello in VersaFine ink again. And here we are now with card 8. This one has actually got quite a lot of die cutting in, so there's actually quite a lot of repetition. So I do show you in the editing I've taken out almost all of it. So here I am just cutting down a panel to sit on top of my card base in the charcoal grey. And now I'm cutting some of this patterned paper, which is quite a busy pattern, but where it's quite small, it doesn't actually take away from the design of the card, I think, anyway. I hope you do too. And here's me in my frugalness. I've die cut 3 circles from that metallic grey pearlescent card, and I'm sticking the patterned paper over the top. Now I'm using the 3 circles to lay down on the card front where I would like the circles to go, and I'm just sort of laying them in and then tucking the smaller die. I use 2 circle dies here. These are Mama Elephant set, and I cut 3 holes, and then I cut 3 holes into the slate pearlescent pieces, and I cut 3 acetates with the larger size so that I can stick the acetates into the sort of like polos, like the rings that I have left of the pearlescent cardstock. All will become apparent. I'm just dropping some glossy accents there around the edge. It is glossy accents, I've just decanted it into a fine tip bottle. Now I've got some foam tape which I've doubled up. You've guessed it, Love From Lizi exclusive shaker sequin mix. So I thought I'd make another shaker card out of it. And all I do here with my foam tape, which is doubled up, is create sort of little gullies so that not all of the sequins drop to the bottom of the shaker, so that the little circle at the top still gets plenty of shaker action in there. And I work my way around the reverse there, putting foam tape up, check to make sure my card's the right way up, because we all know I've done that. And then I mount on the card panel onto the card base. And here I'm using my scissors to cut out 3 of the stickers. You don't have to do this, it's entirely down to you. However, to get those to fit into the little holes, I wanted to use the dies. And if you put a sticker through a die cutter, obviously it's going to stick to your plate. So keeping the backing on the back makes it easier. And here I'm just now, having die cut them, just peeling the backers off and using my tweezers to place them in to the little holes. So here now I can just drop in some of the sequin mix into the little well that's been created, and I'm using some, again, glossy accents just to glue down the 3 covers, if you like. And here the sentiment. Of course, it would have been wise to have done this to start with, but I was considering putting like a flag or a banner on there, but I thought, to be honest, with the rings around the shakers there was enough going on. So the Misty did prove to be a little bit of a lifesaver, because I didn't have solid foam behind where I was stamping, so being able to go back a couple of times to make sure I get a good impression really did make all the difference. And that then is my card all finished. And then we have card number 9, and this is a little bit more of stamping. This stamp set does lend itself to so many different sorts of cards, and I just wanted to show something that I don't usually do, because it's difficult to try and keep it different, and I have chopped a lot of this out because my head did make quite a big appearance. However, all I was doing was randomly stamping the flowers about 5 or 6 times each in Versamark, and then I heat embossed it so I could see where they were, because I was doing the heat embossing with white powder, and it's white watercolor cardstock. So here I'm using some scattered straw and spun sugar on my Tim Holtz craft mat, and I'm just sort of smushing it on with the acetate. The yellow is a really lovely warm yellow. It does look like straw. Tim Holtz is right on the money with that. And the spun sugar is ever so pale. It's really soft. It's lovely. So I go in and put a sort of a coat over. I'm not filling it all in. I don't want this to be perfect. It's sort of to be messy. Then I was drying it in between. I put a couple of layers in, and then I took my ink blending tool, and I just went around the edge to tie it in with that pink, and then I used my Tim Holtz distress marker in spun sugar just to fill the flowers in. I could have done this with the ink pad and a paintbrush, but I had the pen, so I went in and did that. And I trimmed down the watercolour panel and put some foam tape all along the back. Using the pink card base, I mounted that on top and then just trimmed off all the extra. Now here I've picked 2 of the stickers from the sticker sheet from the kit, and I've layered one on top of the other one. And considering how it was I wanted to attach here, I had a little bit of an and ah, but then decided to pop it onto the gold mirror, and I deactivated the stick behind the little tag on the edge so that it made it easier for me to snip away. And then I left ever such a fine border, just so there was a slight shine and a bit of definition to sit it away from the background, but not enough that it was going to steal the show, because the background is the key part of this. And then using my little craft knife there, I've just encouraged the circle through the gold, and then I'm just trying to work out what I'm going to do, and I use the yellow and the pink baker's twine, thread it through the loops, and then I wind that around twice, and then I tie them in knots. And because I was being a little bit frugal with my twine, so then what I did was I pulled all of the knots and the tails behind the tag, and then just used some washi tape. It doesn't matter, it's the back of the card, you could have used any sort of tape, to be honest, and then just trimmed off to make sure they didn't hang out. And then I used a couple of the clothes pegs just to peg on either side of the tag, and that's the end of card number 9. So here's card 10, the final card, and I fussy cut around the top of the bicycle. And here's, oh, my head again, sorry guys. And here's me using this Zyra machine, and I'll tell you what, I am sold. It's brilliant. I think I'm probably going to end up making everything into stickers going forward. But here, I'm just measuring up whereabouts I want to place it on there, and I know that my card blank is a little bit longer than I want it to be, so I didn't position the bike right on the edge so I could trim a bit off. Cut a very thin slither there of the glitter cardstock, and then I'm umming and ahhing over which end of this border to use, and then again pop that through to turn it into my little sticker, and give it a little burnish with my bone folder. And then I'm contemplating which way up to put the scallops, and I decided to have it coming up from the floor, as it were. And then a little dab of glossy accents just along the back of that glitter cardstock, just to cover over the seam between the vellum and the bicycle. And then I use another little tag from the sticker sheet, pop it in, turn it over and trim off all the little excess pieces from the top and bottom. And then I pop some glossy accents over the little file tab which says happiness. And then I run along and just randomly scatter a few drops of crystal drops of the pink carnation that came in the kit. And then I also run back in with the glossy accents, just put a few blobs here and there, which is how I often like to do my sequins. If I overthink it, they end up looking ever so regular, so I do sort of have to just drop them on. And that's the end of it. So these are the leftover items from my kit. There's still plenty of scissors, lots of glitter, the chameleon pen, the crystal drops, the majority of the gems, the glue stick, the peel-offs I only used a couple of strips of. There's still specialty card, about 7 pieces of the vellum, and lots of scraps of paper, and there's still 4 whole sheets of 6x6. So there's still plenty of mates left in there. And then the additional products, glossy accents, mini mister, VersaFine, Versamark, some like general tools. I did use 2 die sets, a Mama Elephant set and a Tim Holtz set, obviously my new sticker maker, double-sided tape, pens, ruler, watercolor cardstock. I did also have my stamp set and my twine left over, which I didn't show, but here are all the still shots. The very last one is the one that I didn't get the good recording on, so do have a little look at that. Thanks ever so much for sticking with me all the way up until the very end. This kit obviously has sold out, but there is plenty of inspiration coming from all the various members, and I will be back very soon with my next instalment of 3 cards, 1 pack. I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves. Thanks ever so much. Do take care, and until next time, happy paper crafting. Thanks. Bye.